Welcome to the Hazard Class Podcast. This is the podcast where I get to ask my stupid questions to some of the smartest people in the world of emergency services. Today, my guest is a retired member of the illustrious HazMat 1 from the New York City Fire Department. He's the co-host of the HazMat Guys podcast, truly one of the finest HazMat instructors in the world. He's also my boss, Mr. Bobby Salvesen. Welcome to the show. Here we go. Bob, welcome.
A lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, yeah. The very first episode of Hazard Class. Welcome. I couldn't have a better guest.
You know what was funny? On the way into this, I was thinking about this about an hour ago, and I said to myself, in the 10 years that I've been doing our show, I've been on only maybe like 4 or 5 other shows. So it is honestly a lot of fun to do other shows. Thank you for bringing me on.
Well, of course, yeah. Okay, so as this is the first episode, I'll do a little bit of explaining. So yes. The thesis of this show is the idea that asking questions is good. And sometimes they're going to be dumb. And when we can point them at the right people, we can get really smart answers. So in the spirit of that, and you haven't seen this before, despite being my boss and being involved with this podcast, we're gonna do something called spin the wheel of stupid questions. We're gonna start this podcast out with hopefully my stupidest question of the day. It might not be, but it certainly may be. So here we go. So
I love it.
Unfortunately, Amazon's terrible. So for our inaugural episode, we don't have a wheel. We have a cup where we can pluck stupid questions. And, spin that wheel sounds a lot better than pluck that piece of paper. So we're going to go with it still. So Bobby has no idea what we're talking about today. He definitely has no idea what stupid question I'm going to ask him. But so we'll start with this. Wait. All right. From the bowl. Mr. Bobby Salvesen, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to say it is open face. So I will say yes. It is a sandwich.
It's a sandwich. Okay. Well, in your mind, what defines a sandwich, right? It's an open face sandwich.
Well, I would say it because the bun is not truly split. It is not between 2 slices of bread. Therefore, it is on one piece of bread that's split, so it's open face. So therefore, it's a sandwich.
But I think we've all been in a situation where the bottom of that bun splits open. Now we have ourselves a sandwich potentially.
That's why I like to eat my tacos over a burrito wrap, because whatever falls out, boom, right into another sandwich.
Look at that. This is the key of asking stupid questions to smart people. We're learning tricks about eating tacos here. This is great.
That's bonus material right there.
Okay. All right. So now we'll get into it. Once again, Bobby has no idea what I got him on here to talk about. And so what we're going to talk about is this. Oftentimes when I teach tech or teach new hazmaticians, they want to know, awesome, I'm excited. Where do I go from here? They say, man. All right, man, so you just filled me with 40 hours, 80 hours, 120 hours of material getting spun up as a hazmat tech. Where do we go? I'm excited. Where do I go?
Okay, I would say first thing is you introduce them to the Dunning
Kruger effect.
The Dunning-Kruger effect, and tell them and trying to point out where they are on the chart, because if you're not familiar with this, for whoever's listening to this, it is a slope of where you are. And when you come out of technician school, you're typically at the top, and they call it the peak of stupidity, where you don't even know what you don't know. You're all puffed up and you feel like you got the world by the shorts, and then you're ready to go. And then you start getting into it. And you start actually going down into the valley of despair because you start understanding, like, you didn't even know that you didn't know these things. And over time, and I'm going to say it takes a couple of years, if not 5, maybe 7 years, you'll start coming back up, but you never truly make it to the point of proficiency where you were at the peak of stupidity, right? And so you've appreciated the whole thing. So what I would say is learn your craft, right? And that's an easy way to saying continue to be immersed in it. Like I know guys in the firehouse or wherever it might be, where when they came into the firehouse, they were all about HazMat. And then there was guys that were all about HazMat even when they weren't working. And then there were guys that were barely into HazMat when they were working. You know, like there's the different levels of guys. If you're not into HazMat, at least while you're working, you're never going to progress above, like, let's say the B team, right? That's going to be your ceiling, and you're not going to get there any part past that, because in order to, there's a great book by a guy named Malcolm Gladwell, and I want to say it's like the 10,000 hour rule. And it says in it, basically, if you don't perform 10,000 hours of practice, you will never hit professional. You know, if you want to be a professional hockey player, well, then you got to practice for 10,000 hours. You want to be a Juilliard trained, in order to get into Juilliard, you basically have to have 10,000 hours. And if you translate it into how many hours a week, how many weeks, how many years, 10,000 hours is years of practice. And if you're only doing it 40 hours a week, that 10,000 hours is going to take you a long time to do it. So the only way to do it in a quicker format is to do it when you're not in the firehouse. And people go, well, I'm not getting paid. Who cares about that? But the point is do you want to be, is it there for a paycheck, which is a valid argument. I mean, being in HazMat is a lucrative place to be. But if you want the afterlife, because if you think about the finite amount of time you have in the fire service, you know, you have 20, 25, 30, depending on what department you're from. Well, when that's over, you have an expiration point on your longevity. Like, you know, at a certain point, like when I left the fire department, there's a ticking clock with what you do. And roughly, and I'm saying this anecdotally, is I found that people that get out of the job and aren't plugged in anymore maybe have 3 to 4 years before you're expired goods. You're out. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know about the new technologies, new techniques, new products, the engagement of keeping that knife sharp by talking to people in the firehouse or going on runs and being curious of things. You're only getting a couple of years. I mean, because we're, you and me, we're doing this on the outside. We're doing this outside of, I retired, but I think I can probably get 10 years out of it because I'm constantly plugged into things. So if you're more engaged and you're doing more hours, you're going to get to that 10,000 hour faster. And then you're going to hit it level. It's going to be that pinnacle part. And we've had a couple of episodes, I'm going to say rather recently, within the last year, where, where do you go from being the best? Because like you would think there's no getting better than the best. And that's where you enter instruction. Because if I understand the topic of how to eat a hot dog, mm-hmm. right? Well, I understand how to eat a hot dog from my point of view, from, 6 foot up and sitting in a chair, and I like the mustard and I like the sauerkraut and that stuff. But I don't know, how does a guy with one arm eat a hot dog? You know what I'm saying? Like
very carefully.
Very carefully, right? Or a guy with only dentures, or a guy with braces. So if you're in front of a class and you're presenting how to eat a hot dog and somebody goes, I don't get that, you now have to repivot and package that information slightly different and then send it again. And then it has to hit. So now you have to take all the concepts you understand in your mind perfectly and be able to throw them in 10 different manners. That's where you go past the ceiling and you get to what I consider true mastery of a subject. When you can spit it at a guy that has never learned anything and he's asking those stupid questions, mm-hmm. and he's just firing questions and you're putting it every single time you're moving that ball up. He's going to hit, when I open a class up almost every single time, I will say, I don't care how many questions you throw me, and I will make you that personal guarantee that nothing shall deter a break, lunch, or going home. So fire all the questions you want, because I'm going to repackage and fire them at you, and you will get it. Because I'm at a level now where I can throw a topic in 7 different ways so that people get it.
Yeah. So with that, how much of this 10,000 hour development is seeking new information versus reinforcing the information you learn through tech? I think that sometimes people get so excited about learning a new thing that they forget about the fundamentals. They might zip right over, mastering physical and chemical properties because they want to learn about this new fancy meter or suit or drones or whatever it might be. But they never master the things you have to have as a fundamental to be able to use the rest of the tools. How do you find balance there?
I have 2 different number paradigms that I would recommend for people to adhere to. And it served me well. So these are lessons that I've gotten out of things, is that adhere very firmly to the 30-30-30 rule. And that means be the mentor to 30% of the people you associate to. Be a peer to 30% of the people you associate to. And then be mentored by 30% of the people you work with. If you're seeing, well, there's nobody to mentor me, well, then you're going to have to fix your friend pool. Like you need to stay in that. So listen, at this point, you might be like, I don't have any people that are better than me, which is, please don't take that with a grain of salt. Maybe you have to start talking to people that are PhDs a little bit more and start balancing that thing out. The second thing is I would say your balance of training. I had an argument with one of my lieutenants, and I will stay statistically at the point of this argument, 85% of our incidents were fuel leaks, saddle tanks, hydrocarbon drops, whatever it might be. And only 15% of the time we were going to other things. And his thing was, we should practice 85% of our drill time on that 85% of the statistics, and only 15% because we just don't go to them. And I disagree with that. I say we should spend 85% on the 15 and 15 on the 85, because you're doing it on the job, getting better at it. So the point of what I'm saying is, I think you're going to have to come to a balance of what you want to get better at. And almost like where Google has, hey, this is your job. And 15% of all your week is whatever the hell Jake wants to do. Mm-hmm. Like, do your side project, man. You want to do coding and that kind of, cool. Because maybe one day that product or that thing or that technique or that suit that you learned about is going to be that squeaky wheel and the shiny thing, and you want to go and touch it. And it's going to come in clutch.
So if we break that down one layer further, and this might be an unanswerable, but what topics of a typical tech curriculum matter most? What do you want people to come out of tech school being good at versus we can figure this out along the way?
I would say understanding the fundamentals. And that's kind of a layered thing. Like, we teach from the technician class that we did was, you got to understand the rules. And I'm not saying you have to become a nerd with 1910 120 or NFPA, but if you pull back an incident to, he who knows the rules runs the game, whether that's the incident commander or not. What I'm saying is, if you're a HazMat tech and you understand the rules incredibly well, then you kind of run the scene. Second thing is understanding how all the parts are put together. Obviously, the fundamental of chemical physical properties, but that leads you into understanding your meters. And more importantly than that, what information they give off. And based upon that, that gives me my zones, my hazards, my PPE. It all comes off of, like, you got to start with a strong foundation. And that's the chemical physical properties. I get it. And I'm saying that can be reinforced on an ongoing thing. If you go to, like, let's say California, they pump 40 hours of chemical properties into your head. And by the time you come out, you're like, oh my God, single bonds and all the, I have never gone to an incident where I've gone, hold on a second, this is a single bonded alkene. Everybody take a step back. Like, nobody does that. So I'm not going to say why waste their time, but there's, we'll set the stage with this information, and then we're going to show you some stuff. And then we're going to show you a little bit more of that information and show it's a layered evolution of the firefighter. So we had a 3-week class. The first week we always called setting the table, right? It was a balance of 80%, let's say, PowerPoints and 20% field work and rotations, because you got to set the table. We have to start with common terminology, definitions, etc. And then we would transition to the 50-50 split of hands-on reinforcement and then some more additional advanced information. And then the week 3 was 80-20 rotations and workshops and testing, because this was we called the week of why, because now we're testing how deep you know it. Hey, Jake, what are you going to wear for this chemical? And you go, I'm going to do a B. I'm like, why? And I'm expecting a argument, like a thick, deep, and I'm like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. That's if we did it right. If you build a technician right, they should evolve to the point where if you're competent, that's a big deal. Having the argument, the depth to go against your peers, argue to somebody that's not in HazMat and have them understand, right? So that's the 30 and 30. And then also be able to swing, like fight somebody that's above you and at least hold your ground.
Yeah.
At the end of your technician level, you should be there. If you're not, then maybe the technician class has to be redone, or let's be honest, not everybody's going to be a top-notch technician. Like the world needs ditch diggers too. And we have guys that are able to lift heavy things, but they're not the guys you send downrange.
Yeah. You bring up interesting points in there, is talking about, the dichotomy of hands-on skills versus like more of the cerebral sciencey side of being a tech. I think that people generally in their programs gravitate towards the hands-on skills because that's what firefighters want to do. They want to go turn the bolt and put the suit on and do the thing. In that, what is the weights in your brain? Is it a 50-50 thing, being able to do the tactile skills versus thing? In my mind, it's a matter of like maybe an 80-20 split. Know exactly what's going on, and then how many times is the solution to a HazMat going down range and like slightly tightening a bolt, twisting a quarter turn valve, right? Yep. It's this build up to be able to get in, out, and then on with your life without dying in the process of doing a relatively simple task generally. So
and not looking terrible.
Yeah.
Not looking like you're an idiot.
Yeah, though that's the worst, right? So with that, how does a new tech be helpful on scene while they're working up to those 10,000 hours?
You're going to have to meet a certain level of competency where you could utility infield any position. Okay. Like you have to not make the company look bad, yourself look bad, the department look bad, not kill anybody, yourself, not bring it home. You have to meet a level of competency. And I think the vast majority of technician programs suffice for that. But then you're going to have to go and find something that interests you. Like, and maybe there's a hole that needs to be filled. And I'm like, Jake, I got to make you the PP guy. Okay. All right. It doesn't excite me, but I'll do it. Most of the time you have that ability of kind of going around and, oh, this really excites me. And I'll tell you the people, the categories of guys that we had on our rig. We had chemists, guys that were incredibly good at understanding chemical and physical properties. We had meter guys that knew everything about every meter and like how much the battery weighed. I couldn't give two craps about that, but to them, that was important. Guys that knew where every tool was and every screw was on a rig. Guys that could lift heavy things and moved pieces around like NASCAR pit crews. Mm-hmm. Guys that understood comms guys. You need the guy to call, the EPA or the police department, or get the chemtrek. There were guys that were great at communicating and logistics and writing the reports. That's an important part. And if you're a technician that's coming out of school and you're like, I can't do that, that doesn't move the ball. Trust me, that moves the ball. That's a great position to be in. Not everybody's going to be that guy.
Yeah. So now, without sounding too much like a commercial, obviously we know you run the HazMat Guys Empire, but what are the resources that are available to people? In a broad scope, say national conferences, local conferences, or specific resources that they could go to improve themselves. And feel free to have a commercial too, because the resources that the HazMat Guys that we can provide are pretty incredible. But I know that it was really an eye-opening experience for me when I started going to more national conferences. And all of a sudden, you're no longer maybe a big fish in a smaller pond, and you realize just how little you know, right? And you start going to lectures with really high-level people, and all of a sudden, it's inspiring, but also each one of those lectures becomes a new resource to improve yourself. What else can you think about?
Okay, I would say check out the 6 major national schools for the people in the United States. You got Socorro, New Mexico for bomb. You have RAD in Mercury, Nevada. You have Anniston, Alabama.
Yeah.
You got Pueblo for rail and highway. You have the National Fire Academy that has like 4 or 5 different titles that has this material. All this stuff is free. All you got to do is get into the class. Some of them are not easy. Some of them got a little wait list, but they're beautiful because you don't pay for anything from the moment you leave the house to the moment you get back. There's also courses from like Chemtrek that are free online, battery stuff, gas stuff, propane stuff. Yeah. It's really not hard to find it off the top of my head. I don't know. There's a lot of EV stuff that's coming up free now. Mm-hmm. The IFF has stuff. The IFC has stuff. A lot of vendors have stuff. Like ammonia from
Transcare does a good ammonia program.
Transcare, the Chlorine Institute does chlorine stuff. So there's tons of free stuff. I mean, obviously we have a free podcast that take it like steal, put it on the kitchen table. I there's no pride in that. To take from one is called plagiarism. To take from many is called research. So take from many people.
Yes.
There's so much stuff. And honestly, the local library, like when I was really getting into it, I mean, I outread my library. And to your point, going to those conferences, if you have the ability of getting to conferences, you're going to see like-minded people. There's nobody who goes to a conference that was forced to go to a conference. They're kind of like, all right, I'll go to a conference and see what's going on. Go to all the classes. Go to every happy hour, go to talk to everybody at the bar. I don't care if you don't drink a soda, and go talk to people. There's tons.
Yeah. It's amazing the conversations you can have over a drink and how much you can learn talking to the right people if you make yourself available to it. All right. Tell us where we can see the podcast and where they can see you speaking if you're speaking anytime soon.
You can go to the HazmatGuys.com. We have a tremendous amount of podcasts. I think we're up to 465, which is almost 10 years of stuff. The last year is free, so test it out, see if you like it. We do have premium subscriptions that let you go back to day one and check out more stuff. We have online stuff. We're going to be presenting, I think, the next 2 conferences, CBRNE in Orlando. We're collaborating with CBRNE Magazine and Argon to do some pretty cool stuff. We are doing some stuff with Hot Zone, and I think that kind of sunsets the 2024 season. But we're out there all over the place, so we're pretty easily accessible. You can email me at bob@thehazmatguys.com, and I'm really going to respond to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for opening up HazMat class the right way. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. It was a real honor. Honestly, I think this is going to be a great show.